Okay guys, welcome back everybody to this video in which we're going to be talking about the one-dimensional wave equation. So basically what we're going to be doing in this video is we're going to show you how the wave equation in one dimension came to exist, and then we're going to be solving it through the separation of variables, and then we're going to find the solution with some given boundary and initial conditions. So as we start here in the screen, you guys can see that we have a wave of length L, and this is a sine wave, could be any wave. But in order for us to solve or basically come with the wave equation, we have to focus on a really small part of the string, or this way, right? Let's imagine this is a string. So if this is a string, let's imagine 2 points P and Q, right? There are some distance x apart. And because this is a string, you know the string is in tension. So you can see the tension forces as we see on the screen, tension 1 and tension 2. So they're pulling, of course, as we learn from dynamics, we can do, right, a summation of forces or a free body diagram to solve for the tension in the string. Notice in this case, right, that the strings, they're pulling at an angle from the horizontal. We have to see the angles alpha and the angles beta. And if we do the summation of forces in the x direction, we're going to get something like T1 cosine alpha equals to T2 cosine of beta. And because there's really no motion in this direction, we can say that this is a constant of just t. All right. So now if we do the summation of forces in the y, we get to the equation that we see now on the screen with the sine of beta and the sine of alpha. Notice that one of them is negative because it's pointing down, the other one is positive because it's pointing up. And notice, because this is the summation of forces, right? In its dynamics, this should be equals to mass times acceleration, where we see here first term, which is rho times delta x times the partial u, second derivative of partial u with respect to time, right? The second derivative. So basically we see that rho is equals to the mass per unit length of the string. So that means that it's kilograms per meter, or whatever length of unit we have. And then we have that times that, x, so that we can then just get kilograms. And then u, which is going to be our displacement, right? The displacement of the string. That's the other axis that we're working with. If we derive displacement's second derivative with respect to time, we get acceleration. So basically here we have the sum of forces equals to mass times acceleration. So let's continue. That's just a quick overview. So as we see, right, for small angles, we know that the slope is really close to the tangent line, where we get the definitions for tangent alpha and tangent beta. If we apply them then into our equation, we can see how it changes, how it gets simplified. And after, doing some more derivation, right, we divide everything both sides by delta x and taking the derivatives, right, because of the slope, and having delta x goes to 0, right, taking the limit is basically taking the derivative, right. We basically get this form right now where we have the derivative of the derivative with respect to x is equals to rho over t to the second derivative of u with respect to t, which you can simplify to this equation. We see that rho over t, it's there. And if we continue simplifying this equation, we can say that there's this constant c squared is equal to the tension divided by the mass per unit length, right? And if we move that c squared to the other side instead of this side, so we can keep the time domain, the time part, on its own, we're gonna have here then that our equation right now, our first dimension, or one-dimensional wave equation, which our dimension is just in x and the other dimension is time. So this is a PDE. This is a partial differential equation, and it is a partial differential equation because notice that we'd have our independent variable is a dependent of both x and t. We have a derivative of u, which is our displacement, as a function of time, and also a derivative of u, which is a function of x, space. So basically this equation that we see right here tells us the displacement of a string as both a function of time and a function of space. We have done many equations before where it's just a function of either x or t, but this one is a function of both. And notice what we have there. All right, anyways, now we get to the good part. This part, in the separation of variables, basically we're going to be solving for our equation. So we then define u, which is a function of x and t, our displacement, to be the combination of a function f of x times a function g of t. So if we substitute that into our wave equation, as we see here, we get the corresponding derivatives, f of x times g double dot of t, and then f double prime of x times g of t. Notice the double dot just means the second derivative with respect to time. That's the notation that we're going to be using. So after we substitute these two definitions back into our original equation, notice that we're going to get the following. F of x times g double prime of t, double dot of t, equals to c squared, which is a constant, times f double prime of x times g of t. So this is just substituting into our original equation. So what I'll do with this one is, now that I will want to divide, just like we saw back in chapter 1, separation of variables, I want to keep all the variables with x's on one side, all the variables with t's on the other. So I will divide everything technically by f of x g of t c squared. And when I do that, notice that we get our equation rearranges and we get now everything in terms of t. I did send the c squared term to the time domains, and I kept the f of x on their own. So now that we have this, we're gonna say that these two, quotients is gonna equal to some constant k. In this case, doesn't matter what constant you put. It's just know that these two things are constant and they're equal to this other letter constant that I'm adding. So what do I do this? Well, this is so that I can then write my two equations. Notice how I write now, I equate each one of these segments to k, and out of this I can then solve for each one of my equations. So notice that I will multiply first, f of x times k, it moves, and then I subtract it, so let's set it equal to 0, and I get my first equation. Do something similar for the time domain, and here you can see I get my two ordinary differential equations. So out of the PDE that we start, the process is that we do separation of variables, right? Separate things so that we can end up with our two ODEs, right? That's the point of solving PDEs. We start with the PDE and then you solve that to an ODE. And these are our equations. So as far as you're concerned, I think at least for our class, this is basically the parts that you need to understand. But we're going to continue solving this problem so that you can see how the wave equation works, how it functions, and how we get to solve it, for practical applications. So now that we have our two equations, right, we said that's equal to k, we gotta talk about certain boundary conditions. And there's like three different, not boundary conditions, but there's like three different cases that we can have depending on the boundary conditions. As far as the book is telling us, the boundary conditions that we're doing for this spring, this string specifically, is that it has both ends fixed. Notice that the displacement of this string on the end where x equals 0 and the end where x equals L is both 0, meaning that at the ends they're moving, they're constraints. So if we solve the ODE that we just found with k being a 0 value, notice that my equation changes now to f double prime of x equals to 0, right? Solving the ODE out of this, if I integrate once, I will get then the f prime of x equals to a. I integrate another more time, and I get then that f of x equals to ax plus b. And then I will solve for a and b using the boundary conditions that I have here. I will solve for b and a as well. So notice that if I put for the previous one, that if f of 0 equals 0, I ended up having that b is 0. Second boundary condition of f of L equals 0, I get a times L equals 0. Because I know the length is not 0, that means that my a value must be 0. And then I get, that this is a trivial equation because both of my terms, a and b, cancel out to just be 0. So this is a trivial solution. So this term with k0 does not satisfy my boundary conditions. If I continue, notice that I will do the case positive, a positive number. So I will write k now as mu squared, when mu is a number bigger than 0. So once again, solving the differential equation, I will get the following, which you see on screen, kind of the exponentials right there. Applying the same process, figure out A and B. Notice that in this case I get B is equals to negative A. I apply the second condition, and now I will get here, right, that A times the exponentials, and in order for the exponentials to not be zero, that means that A has to be zero, which yields again the same as the before, A 0, B 0. Therefore, my whole equation, my whole solution is zero. So this is once again a trivial solution. So you can see, at least for these conditions, these solutions are not working. So next case that we have is where k it's a negative number. So we're gonna call now k, we're gonna call this negative p squared, where p is any value bigger than 0. So once again, I solve my differential equation, and notice that my solution that I get this time is in terms of, a case 3, a cosine and sine. Cosine of px plus b sine of px. By applying the first condition, notice that I get that because sine of 0 is 0, cancels out, and we get that a, cosine of 0 is 1, so a has to be 0, so we get that a 0. Now, applying the second condition, notice what happens. When we have that f of L is 0, we get then that's b times sine of p times L must be 0. But in order for b to not be 0 and not get a triple case, sine of PL has to be 0. And then if sine of PL is 0, that means that PL has to be a value that makes sine be 0. And the values of PL that makes sine be 0 is any value of pi, right? N pi. So any value of pi in sine will make it to be 0. So now we have this relationship right now where PL is equal to N pi. So we get here then that P is equal to N pi over L, where N is any number from 1 to infinity. So bringing that back, then I get my solution that my differential equation is now the f of x is equal to Bn times sine of N pi x divided by L, where we're going to get a Bn depending on the N value that we have. So applying this equation, right, now we use the second ODE, the one that has the time. So same thing here. Notice that I replace now with lambda m squared. With lambda is just a way to rewrite the c square value times the p value, or c squared times p squared equals lambda squared, which is defined there on the screen. It's just a different way to combine those constants. Anyways, solve this one characteristic equation. I'm gonna get a case 3, imaginary terms, and I have now, I'm gonna write this in terms of Bn times cosine of lambda times t, lambda n times t, plus Bn star times sine of lambda n times t. This is just the notation the book uses, right, to not get confused with other ones, but we already have a Bn, and then Bn star will be a second constant. So now that we have this time equation, we can combine it then, right, with the f of x. So remember that u of x of t is equals to f of x times g of t. So we combine these two solutions into the following, right, as you see on the screen. So this is basically our equation is taking shape. But because we saw, right, that some of these terms are lambda n, right, there's different n terms, meaning that we can have a solution with each one of our values. So we can get different modes. So as you guys can see on the screen, right, the solutions vary depending on the n term that you have, meaning different modes or different eigenfunctions we're going to get for each one. So notice how it will look like for different n values, for n equals 1, and then for n equals 2, for n equals 3, and then for n equals 4. Notice the different ways in which this string could vibrate different values. And this is where we get the things such as like harmonics, right? When a wave vibrates, sometimes it vibrates at different frequencies, or it has different harmonics that are the same frequency, just a couple or same way to vibrate, but just a couple frequencies off, right? Kind of like if you know music, like kind of like an octave. So might be similar sounds, but they might be vibrating at different frequencies, but they're technically, related, and so on. So we get into the whole thing about music, but I'm not gonna get to that into this video. But just note that we have different modes, and things will vibrate at different stuff. So because of that, our solution will vary. Notice now for n equals 2, as time progresses, right, we have here then we have a node, and nodes are points where our displacement doesn't change, right? It also remains at 0, not counting the edges. And notice we have it at exactly at the center, at least for this one, because the equation that we had, it followed that the number of nodes, it's equals to 1 minus the nth value. So because it's a value of 2, 1 minus that is 1, so that is one node in the center. And notice that as time progresses, this is how our wave basically vibrates. It changes up and down. It oscillates up and down. So if you change the nodes, it will just continue doing that, and you can calculate the frequency with there. Anyways, let's continue with the solution. We're almost done. So because we said that we have different modes, right? Each mode has to satisfy the PDE boundary conditions, but only doing one is not enough, right? So we have to do a linear sum of all the solutions. So to do that, we're gonna do a summation of all the values of n, and this is where we get then our equation, as you guys see on the screen. So basically, we see here, right, our equation, that the solution to this PDE, it's equals to the sum from n equals 1 to infinity of bn times cosine of lambda n times t plus bn star times sine of lambda n times t, all of that times sine of n pi x divided by L. So this whole equation will tell us how the string will oscillate, or the displacement of the string, the position of any point on the string, how it will oscillate, vibrate, move up and down, depending on where it is located along the length of the string, and also at what time it is vibrating. So if for us to solve for them for those constants, we get then f of x will be our initial displacement, some g of x function will be our initial velocity profile. And in the case where we don't have a velocity, right, where we only have a given initial displacement, we can then solve using Fourier series, as we have already covered before, the function, the constant bn. You can see there on the screen, right? In a similar case, we can figure out then the bn star term, given that we have an initial velocity and not initial displacement, and we also, through Fourier series, slightly different, we can get our constant bn star, right, which is a motion from purely initial velocity. So with that, this is basically our full solution for our PDE. Notice once again it's given on the screen in yellow, and for us to figure out the constants, they're also given there in the screen. So yeah, this whole video was basically for us to show how the wave equation in one dimension came to be derived. Of course, the wave equation can be derived in 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions, so it gets pretty complex the more dimensions that you add. This is the easier one, but at least now you now know how it comes to derive from dynamics, how to separate using separation of variables, how to apply boundary conditions and initial conditions, and then how to solve for the solutions. Notice once again that we have to use Fourier series. There's other ways to approach to solve it, but and listen to this video, we're talking about how to solve it through Fourier series. So if you were to be given any kind of wave, shape, form, whatever, and you want to see how it behaves as a function of time and as a function of its length or its space, we can then, we know if we know their f of x, initial displacement, or if we know initial velocity, we can use that to apply into this equation and figure out the overall thing. And we can also do like a kind of like a 3D plot through MATLAB, where we can see the displacement of the string as a function of space on one side, time on the other, and everything is moving, right? So that's basically this video. Hopefully you guys understand it. I know maybe it went kind of fast, but you guys can also fast forward, come back, because this is one of those important topics that you guys will be using later on. So until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.